Hey everyone, welcome back to the Growing Together podcast with me, Sonny Vasquez.
And me, Cesar Santos.
A podcast where we talk about everything under the sun related to growth. Growth encompasses so many different things and impacts so many different areas of our life, which kind of really brings up a lot of room for opportunity for discussion between Cesar and I, which is why we chose that to be kind of the focus of our podcast. So if you're new here, that's a little bit about this podcast. But Cesar, how are you feeling this morning?
Good. Yeah.
He's going to say we're getting caffeinated.
Getting caffeinated.
Say the same thing.
No, I was going to say I woke up feeling like a little sick. I don't know. But I don't get too into the details, but yeah.
The details.
Yeah. But no, I mean, we're here, obviously getting caffeinated. Got my Pawnee.
It's my
Actually,
mug.
not mine, but it's Sonny's.
He has coffee stains all over.
Yeah, because apparently I don't know how to drink coffee. So
yeah.
Apparently.
How was your Saturday?
It was good. We recorded another episode yesterday. I edited the podcast. I actually looked over all the footage we shot when I went to Wetlands to shoot the B-roll for my video. So yeah, we hung out. So
yeah, we went to go get my ring repaired.
Oh yeah, I don't know why that just blanked out.
We went to Jared where Cesar bought the ring, and luckily Cesar, thinking ahead and knowing something was going to happen in the future, had bought like protection insurance, not just on the diamond but on the band itself.
Yeah.
So we can get it repaired as many times as we need for free. That's what the protection band is for. So they're going to repair it with no cost to us, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean,
so that was
cool.
Exciting.
I was surprised. So I was kind of like, I went on their website and I was kind of like, wait, it doesn't say they can. But then they're like, oh yeah, we can. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to question it.
Yeah, so that was exciting. We also took a nice little walk in 108-degree weather yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Thought I was going to pass out. I mean, I've only lived here in Vegas for 2 years, so I think this is like my second or third year. Mm-hmm. But the summers are brutal, and as much as I want to be outside, like it's hot, and you've got to stay hydrated during the Vegas summer.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess we'll get into today's episode. Today's episode is something I always say this, but it is something that I feel like I am kind of going through now. But everyone goes through at some point in their life, and just something that I think needs to be more talked about more. But the title today is Healing Your Hurt. And I kind of wanted to open up with this quote that I feel like just really, it sticks with me. And it says, "True healing occurs when I give myself permission to feel whatever feelings live below the triggers." A few things I want to touch on in this episode are what it means to heal, how to start the healing process, and challenges you can expect along the way, and then some other subtopics that will probably come along within conversation. But I mean, what do you think when you hear healing?
I think of like when you injure yourself. For example, I've broken my arm. I've only broken one bone, my left hand. And, you got to go to the doctor, you got to go to a physician, and they examine, the injury, and then they, with the proper tools and, literally pulling your arm back and like putting it in place. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's literally what they had to do. To me, at least. I know there's different types of breaks. And then they put a cast on it, and you literally wait, I think like 3 months or something like that. And then you're all healed. So it's like there's a proper person you talk to, a physician, that can give you the right, obviously, treatment, and then with time, you're healed. And that's why I think about healing, like even when it comes to like other scenarios in your life where
emotional wounds.
Emotional wounds. Like you got to give them time. You got to also, before you give it time, you also got to find the right path to actually healing, because there's
different paths depending on the scenario.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. Healing is kind of also based on like the situation and the scenario. And I was actually on the phone with my mom the other day, and I was talking to her about like, things I've been going through and things I'm trying to work through and heal through. And I had recently reached out to some people that were had caused me pain, and in efforts to kind of bring myself peace and finally like kind of move on and let go, I thought that would be a good way for me to start like the healing process, because I feel like I've never really been able to heal from this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling my mom about it, and she just told me, she was like, that truly sometimes the only thing that can heal is time. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and feel better. Sometimes it's just time. And that can be, it's a great sentiment, but it's also like, it's like you just want to feel better now. And it's like, how much time? Like the time frame depends on like how deep the wound was. And like, it's hard to, it's just a hard place to be in when you're trying to heal. Like I think more like emotional wounds and like wounds that people can't see.
I mean, I think of it the same process too. You have to talk. You have to either talk to somebody who has your best interest in mind, and can actually help guide you into the right direction of healing. Especially, for example, like wounds you can't see, like whether it's like emotional and you were hurt by somebody or by people or whatnot. And that's I feel like it's a similar approach, but just finding the right type of person that's probably the difficult part. It's something I think you can tell something you can do yourself, but it's just gonna take even more time. So
yeah, but like, I think of it too, because I think throughout this process of like me trying to heal some of like the trauma I have, it's this brings up another quote that I wrote down because I think it's relevant too. It's like, you cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have that support system, when you don't have those people to reach out to help you heal, then it becomes a solo process. And honestly, I think sometimes it's like, what does healing look like for you? And I think we've talked about this, like what's the ideal outcome,
Mm-hmm.
like what do you want to happen in the end? And I think for me, that's a question that I've had trouble answering, because I think with both scenarios for the situation I'm in, I'm losing. Like either way, I'm going to be upset. Either way, there's going to be parts of me that feel broken and that feel hurt.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. So it's like, okay, well, how do I heal that hurt? No matter what scenario, no matter how it plays out, how do I, mend myself back together? And I think sometimes obviously we mentioned time, it takes time, but I think too, it takes like you have to like work on yourself and begin to understand like what the things that make you hurt, like what has made you hurt, and how you cannot put yourself in the same situations again.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. When that quote that you mentioned, like, yeah, you can't heal in the same environment that caused the pain in the first place. Like,
yeah,
it's like me using the breaking my hand situation. It's like, yeah, if you can't heal by doing the same thing again and the same thing, like for example, like I jumped off a swing, I wouldn't heal if I kept doing that over and over again, falling in the exact same place. So it's like I'm going to keep breaking my arm over and over again if I keep doing that. But I said, hey, I got to remove myself from ever doing that again. And I haven't done it since. I haven't jumped off a swing. But
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't ever jumped off a swing.
No, it's sketchy now. I get scared every now and then. So
I think it's like, it's funny that the first thing you bring up is like physical wounds. But I think like with, the wounds that we don't see and the emotional trauma and all of that, like they can be so painful. It's like, I feel like sometimes it'd be less painful to be stabbed, like to have like a physical wound. And I was doing some research yesterday to kind of see, physical symptoms of like emotional wounds and emotional trauma. And some of those physical symptoms are often like insomnia or disrupted sleep or fatigue, muscle tension, anxiety, depression, panic attacks. And this is like our body reacting to things that like or emotionally damaging us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so crazy that even when it comes to a wound you can't see, even when it comes to emotion, there are physical symptoms that you're hurt,
Mm-hmm.
that you're suffering. And it's like a physical wound in that sense. It's like it's something that needs to be healed in order for you to not like have these symptoms, you know?
No, I mean, like, I don't know exactly where you read that from, but I've heard something similar like that, where like, that's why, like, if someone goes through some sort of like grieving, like some sort of pain, like let's say they lost a loved one, and let's say like that loved one was their spouse, there's like chances where, like, let's say it was the husband or the wife, where like that person can like literally die from a heart, like from a broken heart. It's like called a broken heart syndrome.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, no, having this Star. No, it's a true thing. Like, where like people, like, because you know they're going through so much that their heart stops working, and there's a lot of cases where that's happened, and it's like, oh, this is like broken heart syndrome. I think that's what it's called. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of emotional when you're feeling a lot of things, at least inside of you, they can, like, you know, not project, but you can put like you can externally like show those, you know, whether you're feeling tired or whatnot, like those symptoms that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I just think it's so crazy that, like, you know, that they're so prevalent signs of like emotional damage and emotional trauma. And I think when it comes to like what it means, like for me, what it means to heal, like it means to, like, you know, not necessarily not feel. Ideally, I think it's like feeling a sort of peace, like coming to terms with what happened, why it happened, and like not letting it hold you back. I think a lot of times when we deal with things that really hurt us, when we deal with situations that have caused us a lot of pain, and a lot of hurt, that can impact us in other areas, and it can hold us back. And until we start going through that healing process, you're going to continue to feel some of those things, some of the things that are going to just hold you back and limit you to what you can do. And like, I think that's like kind of the argument for, like, especially for me, like, that I need to heal, because I can see how it impacts my life. I can see how it impacts how I feel and how I feel towards myself. And I know if I begin to heal from this situation, I might be putting myself in a better spot, and maybe some of these emotions that I feel so heavily and some of the pain, it'll be a little bit lighter. I do think that pain doesn't necessarily like go away fully. I think some of it will always be there. I might have mentioned this before, but my sister, you know, she's dealt with a lot in her life. And there are situations that she's resolved with individuals, but they still hurt her. And she goes, you know, some days I do wake up and I'm angry and I'm sad that it happened. And she goes, you know, it still hurts. And I think that's like, it's unrealistic to think even with healing that like it's not going to hurt anymore, especially depending on the gravity of like the situation. Like if you're talking about, oh, this person said one bad thing about me, like, you know, it might hurt for a little bit, but like you're more likely to get over that you're more likely to get over that instead of like someone who has hurt you repeatedly and like made the situation a lot worse.
Yeah.
So I think that's just, there's always going to be that pain there. And we have to expect that, you know, it might not go away fully, but one day you'll feel like you can breathe again. Like, you know, I think a lot of times I felt like I was underwater and I couldn't really like catch my breath. And it, like in some of like the hardest days, I just felt like I don't want to feel like this, but I don't know how to not feel like this. And it's heartbreaking because everyone tells you like in order to heal, you need to do, like in order to heal, for instance, and I think we talked about this in our forgiveness episode, is you need to forgive. In order to heal, you need to let go. And I think those two things are some of the hardest things to do, especially depending on the situation. Forgiveness is one thing, but fully letting go, I know for me, I struggle to let go because I feel like if I let go, I'm opening myself up for the same thing to happen. Because if fully let go is like, to me, fully forgetting, and then I'm opening myself up for the same shit, essentially.
Yeah. you're opening up yourself for the same thing to happen again.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, you're gonna get hurt over and over again, and that's actually kind of what, you know, in this case, like, that was kind of like the pain that you're healing from in the first place. So
yeah,
why put
and it's
yourself through
like,
that?
I think too, when you go through sort of like emotional things and pain of the heart, you kind of lose trust in people. And I feel like when I was growing up, I was very trusting of people, and I gave everyone the benefit of the doubt. And then as I've gotten older, it's become harder for me to do that, because of how many times you get burned.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. I think of, like, I mean, we had a podcast episode yesterday about who are we and, like, why are we here. When I think about who I am, I want to be that person that's full of light and can help and is very open and loving towards people. But when you're hurt, it's so hard to be that way. It's so hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's so hard to not just love yourself, but love other people. And it's not an excuse to do bad things, but it's so hard when you're going through such painful things to, I feel like, act like a functioning human being.
Yeah, I mean, if it shows, like you're saying, like the outward, external, like what you're feeling inside, you're going to show it outside, out towards, like, you know, whether it's like your physical appearance or whatever the case is, or how you're feeling, like, then it makes it harder for you to function throughout the day, depending on what you do, obviously. And yeah, no, I can totally agree with that. I think that's probably one of the reasons why you would want to look into healing in the first place, is like, if you're like, what you're feeling, like, let's say you're grieving, like, prevents you from doing what you need to do, like, that's going to affect a lot, not only you, but other people too as well. But then also you gotta be around people who are willing to empathize with you too. I mean, empathize with, like, hey, what's going on? Is there anything that we can do, or I can do, or whatever the case is, to, like, instead of, like, you just need to get over it, you know, like, there's a lot that goes around like that, like, when someone goes through something and, like, within, like, the following day, you're already starting to get people like, it's all right, you know, sympathize, you know, like, it's all right, this happens to people all the time. Yeah. It's like, no, it should be more of a, like, is there anything I can do? Like, maybe I've never been through, I don't know what you're feeling. Maybe I'm sorry. Bless you. Maybe I don't know what you're feeling, but, like, is there anything I can do to help? You know, instead of just, like, trying to get people to hurry up. You know, I don't think that's the right thing to do.
But I think when it comes to healing too, there's healing yourself and then healing relationships. And I personally think that it's more important to heal yourself, like, first, and focus on yourself and put yourself first, instead of, like, healing the relationship first. Because a lot of people will be like, kind of want you to heal the relationship, but it's like, how are you supposed to heal a relationship when you're still hurt from things that a relationship caused, you know?
No, exactly. It's I look what you just said right now. I look at that metaphor that when you go on an airplane and they tell you, like, put your mask on before helping others. The whole point of that is that if you don't put your mask on first, you're gonna pass out.
Yeah, and then you won't be able to help others,
and then you can't help anybody else. And then next thing you know, you're actually going to be more of a, not a nuisance or burden, but you make the situation worse.
Yeah. So it's like someone's got to help you, and, like, I just think too, when it comes to, you mentioned, I think that, like, you're wondering, like, you said something about how, like, your hurt and your healing affects, like, other people. And I think when it comes to healing, I think you have the right to be, like, super selfish. I think everyone's always concerned about how, like, and I might not, like, put this in the best way, how you're, like, the way you said it, I know you didn't intend it for this way, but I think people do believe this, is someone's healing path or healing journey can sometimes be an inconvenience to other people. Like, you prioritizing what you need and what is going to help you some people might see as an inconvenience because of how it affects them. And even if it doesn't affect them like negatively, but if it just causes them the slightest inconvenience, like, oh, it's such an inconvenience, so you just need to get over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of fucked up, to be honest.
No, it is.
Because we, like, at the end of the day, as much of like a community that you have within like maybe support systems and like people, the one person that you need to please and the one person that you need to be happy with is yourself. And so I think that sometimes we have the right to be selfishly focused on us, like selfishly focused on what we need to, function and to feel happy, to feel joy. And for me, I think something that kept me from healing was this idea that I needed to prioritize other people and their emotions and their feelings and not prioritize myself, which was kind of wrong because but I always felt like I needed to play a part in people's lives and to be there. And so when it came to myself, I was neglecting myself and the person and what I needed as an individual, and no one else was giving that to me. The only person that could be giving that to me was me. And but when you start to take care of yourself, when you start to do what's best for you, it really starts to bother people for some reason. Like, in my experience, people get so pressed when you're just doing what's best for you.
No, they do. And I think it has to do with the fact that maybe they think that I can see a scenario where people think that you might be ignoring them or thinking that you're secluding yourself or whatever the case is. No, it's you have to, take time and go into the desert or the jungle and figure yourself out and come out a stronger human being.
Yeah, I think it goes back to you can't heal in an environment that hurts you.
It's literally,
it's not right. Like you said, you're not gonna go and do the same thing that caused you to break your arm. You're not gonna go in, for instance, you got bit by a spider. You're not gonna go put yourself in front of spiders. You can't heal around people that hurt you because it's a constant reminder of that pain. And I was actually doing a lot of research last night. Google searching, and it's so funny when I Google search because I work in SEO, so when I'm looking at these search results, I'm just knowing that their SEO is good and maybe the information, you don't know how great the information is, although Google tries to promise you the best information as well, the quality of the information, but healing and how to heal from emotional trauma and all that kind of stuff, so we could talk about it today. And one of the things is when you put a source said, I can't remember what source it was, I'll have to go find some links to put in the description, that I was referencing, is that often when you put yourself in the same situation that hurts you, the emotions that you felt the day that you hurt come back full force. And that's something that I've experienced, whenever I've been in the same situation or among the people that hurt me, my heart starts to beat really fast. I start to panic and I start to visibly show signs of distress, and for a while I thought it was crazy until I read that. I was this is, you're just reliving it over and over and over again. So to put yourself in a room for people that might have hurt you while you're trying to heal isn't going to do any benefit to you. And I think that's important for people to know, because people will often get so pressed, oh, why isn't this person around? Or why isn't, it's they're working on them, and give them time to figure out what they need and what's going to help them. And don't make it about you. I feel so often people make it about them. This is so inconvenient for me, or this is so, and I've had this conversation with my parents. So when I went through a really rough time about 8 months ago, I didn't talk to anyone. And the only person I did talk to was you, because we lived together. Mm-hmm. And I didn't reach out to anyone. My sister was calling me. My mom was calling me. My dad was texting me. And I just didn't want to talk to anyone. I just didn't know how to cope with my emotions. So I didn't tell anyone. I was I need to figure this out for myself. And at first, my mom and dad were pissed. They're this is so rude of Sonny. And I told them, I was when I was talking to him, now when I talked to him about it, I was I needed to figure out for myself what I needed. And in that moment, it was just to figure out this by myself. I didn't need your input. I didn't need my dad's input. I just needed to be alone and figure out what I was even feeling and like what was the next steps. Because when I eventually did reach out to my parents, it also didn't help. It like, not that they weren't trying to help, but like they didn't know what I needed at that time, and I needed to figure out what I needed as well. And yeah, it's just so hard. Like, I feel like everything in life is hard and anything worth doing is hard. But healing is especially hard because you do have to, like I mentioned in the beginning of the episodes, you have to give yourself permission to feel what lives below the things that trigger you. And those emotions, those are strong and they're overwhelming and like they're heavy. Like, they're so heavy. And I feel like they are like open wounds. Like, you can't see them, but it feels like there's just like an open wound like on my side every day. And like, no matter what I do, no matter what I'm doing to it right now, it's just not healing. The efforts that I'm making right now aren't working. And so you're having to kind of like figure out what's going to work for you. And I think with that being said too, healing, while there are certain things that like remedies people will give you of like your path to healing, I think it's a personal thing. And what some person might say is like 6 steps you can take to healing might not work for you. You know, some people say you need to forgive, some people, but like I don't think it's like a standard across the board works for everyone type thing. I think you need to figure out what you need as an individual.
Yeah, I mean I would say that there are some things that people, you know, have said in the past and that have worked for a majority of people, but again, like everyone's different, everyone's situation's different, and there isn't like a blanket approach to everything.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, starting off, forgiveness does help, I would say. I mean, I'm talking from my own personal opinions and like things that I've gone through in my life before. But again, it doesn't work for everyone. Everyone's got different lives. Everyone's got different situations going on. But it's a good approach. Again, like my whole metaphor that I was using about breaking my arm is like talking to a physician. There are physicians like for this type of like these type of emotional traumas and whatnot. There's not to say like, oh, go read this book, you know, the same way I wouldn't tell someone go drink chamomile tea, like it's gonna fix everything. No, it's like, but there is resources, there's things that can help people. And again, like it doesn't hurt to try. For some people it works. So like, I just read this book and it made me realize XYZ, and now I understand.
I think it's like the point too is just to not be disheartened if like something doesn't, like, you know, like we're all individuals who need different things. Like, I think of it like, you know, in psychology, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And like, it's kind of like the basic needs of individuals, like what we need to survive. But then there's like other needs that are like very personal, like what you need out of people, what you need in relationships, what you need in friendships, what you need in your, like just so many different things. And because everyone is so different, like to like set a standard path, it just doesn't make sense. To throw like it's like throwing the same Band-Aid on everything. Like you wouldn't heal a broken arm the same way you heal a laceration on your chest. Or
there's different approaches.
Or like there's different approaches, and I think that's a huge thing when it comes to healing from emotional trauma and healing from things that have really hurt you, is that it takes time is the number one thing, but it also takes just investment in you. Like investment in like what's going to work for you, and to not get discouraged when things aren't working. I think that's something I personally struggle with, to be fully open and transparent. I struggle with like getting discouraged when I'm not healing at the like rate that I feel like I should. I actually talked to my friend Alyssa. Oh gosh, I really love her. I feel like I bring her up all the time, but she's such a great friend. And I was telling her, I was like, I'm really wanting to go to therapy, and my only fear of therapy is that I'm a competitive person, and I also am like, therapy would become something I want to be good at. Like here's my gold star type thing. Get the validation that I'm kicking ass at therapy. Mm-hmm. And if I wasn't, I would get really discouraged. And it's like, man, I mean, maybe that's something I've got to work out in therapy as well. But I think I get really discouraged when I'm not healing as fast as I want to, when I'm not, making moves as fast as I want to. And I think that goes down to, as well, something I wrote down, it's like a quote that I'm trying to keep at the top of mind too, is one of the most challenging things I've had to learn is that healing must be intentional. There is no one golden day that comes and saves you from all your misery. Healing is a practice. You have to decide what you want to do and actively do it. And I think that's too is like, I don't know if it was this year or last year. It might have been this year. I usually pick a word for the year, and I think you're familiar with this, that describes like what I want to be or what I want to do. I think for the past couple of years, it's kind of stayed the same as like intentional. And I feel like this year too, it's been more prevalent. I just want to be intentional with everything I do, with every relationship. And healing is a very like intentional process. Like you have to want to do it. And also, I think my favorite part of this quote is that there is no one golden day that comes and saves you from all your misery. And I think sometimes, I know in the past too, when I was younger, even like maybe a year or two ago, I kind of often thought like, one day I'll wake up and I'll feel better. Or one day, like, I won't be as sad. Like, and that I wasn't, without putting in any work to healing my soul or healing my pain, I just thought things would go away. And the fact of the matter is that they won't. Like, without actively putting effort into things, nothing's going to come of it. The same way that we have to put effort into our jobs or effort into our hobbies. Like, you don't just get things in this life. You have to work for them. And, it can be a hard realization too, like, because it's not like healing isn't a fun process. It's not like, woohoo, I'm gonna start healing today. It's very painful. You're gonna have to like recognize all these emotions that you put really down in a box in the bottom of your heart to not think about it. I think this brings up too, like Cesar will say all the time, like, yeah, I've forgotten about this because I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, whenever I say that, in regards to like, I just don't want to bring it up because like I've put it, not to say I put it away in a box somewhere.
I do think personally you put things in boxes.
No, I mean, okay, let me explain.
Okay.
I don't put things in boxes. So what I do is I go through a situation in my life, whether it was painful, whether even a happy situation, sometimes, you have like something like amazing happen in your life. And you tend to remember, you want to remember that. Like, you say, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. Like, I'll give you one good example of a happy situation that I don't put in a box. But whenever I think about it, like when we went to Georgia with your friends, I had the best time at Six Flags.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, there's I can't remember, the Superman.
Oh, that one's scary. That was so scary.
I love roller coasters. So
do I. I just thought we were going to fall out.
We waited like an hour and a half just to get on that ride. And the anticipation, like seeing everybody ride it, and you're like, man, this is gonna be so cool. Like building up to it. Like there's something about all of that. And I put that, I don't put it in a box. I just put it in a place where I can like remember it.
Yeah.
But like whenever I had something traumatic happen to me, what I'll do is I'll just like I don't want to remember that. Like I don't want to recount something bad that's happened. So I just kind of like put it in the garbage, and then but
shredder.
However, like no, think of it like a shredder. Think of it like a shredder. But however, if I think hard enough, I don't know why I would want to remember something traumatic, which is why I always find it difficult. Whenever I think we've kind of had conversations, is like a shredder or like the garbage can. You can recrumple that piece of paper up.
What I'm saying is you got a heavy landfill inside you. You're just throwing these things in garbage, but it doesn't make it disappear. It's just in a landfill somewhere.
Yeah, no, well, the thing is, yeah, it is in a landfill somewhere, but like I've processed it. I've processed it where I'm content. Or not, I don't even say content. Like it's just like whatever that was happened, and there's nothing I could do to change it because it's the past. So why do I need to remember the past? If not, what I'll end up doing is I'll end up putting myself in that landfill. Why would I put myself in that landfill and like sit amongst the muck of all of the horrible things that have possibly happened to me in the past? So, or the situations I've been put in. So instead, I'll remove myself from that and put myself in a good place.
But what I'm saying though too is like I understand like not wanting to delve into the past, but the thing about what we can learn from the past is how to move forward in the future. And a lot of times the way we react to situations now, or the way that we operate now, has a lot to do with what's happened in the past. And you can't heal from those things, truly heal from the things, unless you've recognize the emotions. And I think for the most part, I wouldn't say you have all these issues, but I think we've also acknowledged too that there is areas that you haven't healed from, but you've put in that landfill, and you're expecting different results by not healing from it, because you don't want to think about it, because it is hard. It is very difficult, because some of those emotions are, again, heavy. But that's one thing I've learned is when I think about a scenario like today, if for instance we've recognized that a lot of times I get upset about certain things, and then when we talk about it later, I think about why was this, and it's because this happened XYZ in this in the past, and I'm having to learn how to not do that because of pain that was caused in the past. So I think that while we shouldn't dwell our lives in the past, I think we need to take it as a way to learn from them and learn how to react differently in situations that might come up, because I think at the end of the day, you can do everything to protect yourself, but you should just prepare also for a situation like that to happen, and how you'll treat it differently,
No, and that's the thing, is that, again, there are situations that are, I've done what I was saying. I've processed it. When I say that I've processed it, I mean that I've fully come to understand that what you just said. I've healed from it. So and I've just put it away.
But do you think that you've healed from everything?
Yeah, of course not. I haven't. There's I'm not a perfect human being. I know that there are situations and things that have in my life that I still haven't fully healed from. However, I'm not saying that I'm gonna not remember those just to not heal from them. If the situation comes about where I need to do that, where I need to heal from it, but right now I feel like I'm all right, even though I know that there's more improvement that can be done. But I'm just the type of person that I'm trying to move forward with stuff, and that's, for me, that doesn't help me. But I know everyone's different.
I think though that too is you could just not be aware of how it's impacting you right now, or how it is causing you pain. I think a lot of times when it comes to healing, or people not healing, is that they just don't realize that there are things that are affecting them. That's why I do think everyone can benefit from going to therapy, because it does uncover not just, it covers issues that you might have not known that are impacting you, or that were causing you pain subliminally, or impacting how you react to situations. And I just think, because I think about that, I've become so more aware of things that are impacting me, and what they're caused by, and how my reactions are caused by these things, and how I can change it. And I think for a long time I was blind to that. I never really wanted to understand why I was the way I was, or why I felt the way I felt. But I think when we really truly look into ourselves, a lot of that has to do with our past and pain in our past. And I'm not saying every day you should think about it, but I think that, we've recognized when, you'll let me know hey, yeah, this is actually because of XYZ, and we talk about it, and I don't know, I think that's always beneficial.
No, I'm not saying it's not beneficial. I'm just saying that, in short, all I'm trying to say is that, there is I'm not saying that to not go to therapy. Of course, it benefits a lot of people.
No, again, I wasn't saying that you're saying that. I'm just saying it seems like you don't want to deal with some.
No, they're again, the whole thing I was saying in the beginning, a physician, you need to talk to somebody, and there's other forms of physicians that you can.
I don't think you always have to go to someone, though. It's a thing too.
Oh no, I'm not saying that either. That's what I'm trying to. What I'm trying to say is that you don't always have to go to somebody either.
Yeah.
So there's other forms of physicians that are physical, like people. What I'm referring to is either, let's say, so for some it's religion. For some it's a book they read. For some it's some kind of.
For some people it's Die Hard.
Huh?
For some people, it's Die Hard.
Yeah, for some people, it's Die Hard or something like that.
Or RoboCop.
Or RoboCop. Yeah, like that's what I'm trying to say is that there's other forms of help that you can do yourself, and that's why like I'm not anybody who goes and reads a book and says, "Oh, this book changed my life." No, I really do believe there's people that have said that. I've heard a few people say, "This book changed my life." Like I've read this book, or I read these chapters, and it just completely changed my life for the better. It made me realize X, Y, Z, and that's what I'm saying. Is that
I'm sorry that I didn't you didn't make that clear. Whenever you reference physician, I took it very literally.
No, I mean like because again,
so I didn't know that you were referencing like other means.
No, I'm talking about all the means, like physical, like person, non-physical, like that really, help people. So, like something you can't see, obviously, like you're saying, like emotions, you can't see them, but there's like an outward thing that you show when you're feeling a certain way. That's the same way. But yeah, that's all I'm saying is that there's that form of help that you can also get. So
yeah. And I think too, though, it also does go back to like having like a support system, whether you're seeking therapy or just have a really good people around you. I've been so lucky with the people that I work with. They honestly, and it sounds so cheesy, they feel like family. I feel like I can really trust them, even to talk about things that aren't related to work. Like I've made really good friends with, like I mentioned her, Alyssa, like we're really good friends. We talk like outside of work, but also my manager. I was really struggling this week, and we have a one-on-one every week on Tuesday, and I kind of broke down and was just like, I was like, this isn't work related. But I'm just really going through it. I'm having a hard time, and kind of explained him the situation, and he was really understanding where most employers wouldn't be. They'd be like, "Why are you crying, Sonny?" But also just like, for instance, I have some people that work with me that listen to my podcast, and one of them, his name is Alejo. And he's amazing. I love him. We always like kind of go back and forth with each other. But he's so great, and he Slack messaged me, and I kind of made it aware that I have like anxiety, obviously, in our podcast about depression and anxiety. And where my mind goes when people reach out to me, I'm automatically think that I'm in trouble, especially when it's work. And Alejo was like, messaged me. He was like on Friday, he's like, "Hey, like, how's it going?" And I was like, "Hi." And he was like, "Do you have 5 minutes?" He was like, and then he typed, "Don't worry, you're not in trouble." And I was like, "Thank you for letting me know." And he was like, "Yeah, I figured I'd let you know because I saw your podcast." And I feel like that's such like a nice thing to like have an understanding of, reassuring people and like communicating with the way and that works with them. And, a lot of while I'm healing, I'm obviously having to go through like day to day still like have obligations. Obviously I need a job, I need to work, which is why I have a job. I need to pay bills, I need to take care of myself, but it's nice to be around people that can understand that you're doing that, and like that not every day is easy.
Mm-hmm.
Some days just really suck, and it can be nothing related to work. Like I told Douglas when I was having the conversation, he's my manager, that this isn't related to work. Like there's no issues I have with work right now. But I'm just struggling personally, and that can make work hard. And not to say I'm not going to get stuff done, but just so you have that insight as well. And, it's just nice to be able to have those conversations, be open with people that you work with, because I feel like when you have a good understanding of people, you lead more empathetically, and that creates like better relationships and better business. I think the reason I love our team so much is because they've showed me like empathy, and because they showed me understanding, and that makes me want to work harder. That makes me want to deliver so much more for them. And it's nice to have those people, and I feel like slowly I'm building up like community, which kind of sucks because we're remote, so like we all live in different places. Like I would love to hang out with people that are on my team, so I'll have to plan some trips to see them.
Cool. That'd be really cool.
I think too is like when you're trying to heal, like, and you don't have like that community, it's like trying to build that community of people, and like building relationships can be hard, obviously, because you kind of go in with your guard up. You go in with like, I don't want to get hurt again by people, like, so you're kind of weary of people, and like, or making them like important person in your life, or making them like, you know, letting them close to you, because you don't want to get hurt again. You don't want to feel what you felt. Like, when I think about some of the emotions I felt in the past like 8 months, and, you know, things that have transpired, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Like, not my worst enemy. It's something I never thought I would experience. Like, emotions I never knew that I had, or, you know, I don't want anyone to experience that. And, you know, it's been hard for me to think of rebuilding trust. You know, I think when you talk about healing, a lot of it has to do with rebuilding trust too, because emotional wounds are often caused by one person or a group of people that said hurtful things or did hurtful things, or the actions, you know. I do believe I heard this all the time growing up, that actions speak louder than words. And I've taken that to heart too, because they do. Like, if you don't tell me you care about me, show me that you care. And I think some people will say that, oh, I am. And it's like, how? What makes you think that this is showing that you care? And, like, granted, everyone has a different way that they show love. You know, there's love languages. But at the end of the day, too, you've got to look at yourself. People have to look at themselves and be like, would this portray to someone that I actually care to them? Would this action portray that, like, oh, yeah, I care a lot about this person?
It might not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might not. They might. That's the other thing too. Is like you're saying, like love language and communication. Like people communicate differently.
Yeah.
And like someone reaching out might be different from one other person. Maybe someone reaching out might be them knocking on your door and like leaving a card. I don't know. Like, so it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So.
And like that's not. I think when it comes to rebuilding trust, like that's something that's just so hard, you know, especially like when you've given someone the benefit of the doubt time and time again, and then you have to like try and trust them, like try to believe that there's goodness in the heart that doesn't want to hurt you. But like some people are like, well, some people think like once you've broken trust, like there's no rebuilding it. You know, it kind of goes back to, like, if we're talking about, like, actual relationships, you know, I used to hear, like, especially in college, like, a cheater's always a cheater. Like, if you cheat on someone, you're going to do it again. And I think of, like, that, too, in, like, regular other situations where, like, if this person did this once, what makes you think that they won't do it again? Like, and the way to change that frame of mind is to like see a change in action on their end. We talked about this a little too. It's like accountability. Like accountability is like taking account for your actions. So if I, for instance, if I hit you, I'm like, just slapped you, and you're like, ow, like that hurt, and I'm like, okay, and you're like, you know, it's like, well, I don't trust that you won't hit me again. It's like, oh, I promise. You'll say, I'm sorry. Accountability being like, I'm sorry for hitting you. I recognize how my action affected you. I won't do it again. And then in the future, making sure they don't do it again.
Yeah.
Like them not doing it again. Because then if they did it, it's like, okay, well, you just hit me again. Like,
yeah,
you literally said you weren't going to, and you did. So I think like that's, you know, there just has to be accountability too. When it comes to, and accountability is seeing that change in action. And I think that's part of like healing too, is like, I think you can forgive someone, I think you can try to move on, but to truly heal is to see that like this person is going to change, and this person is going to like show like different actions. Yeah. I also remember, this just came to my mind, I remember hearing as a kid, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that is such a load of crap. Like, literally the biggest load of crap I have ever heard in my life. Because words do hurt. I've been more hurt by words than anything in my life. Any physical wound. And the idea is that words won't like you. And your mom says this. I remember your mom telling me this. Was that I just need to cover my body in oil and let the words slip off. But it hurts. They hurt. Like, you know, some people can like, you know, some people it doesn't bother, and like you can say anything to them. I think you're more like, oh, you can call me anything, I'm not going to care. But for me, like, I mean, I work with words. Like, I that's how I that's how I make myself known. Like, I'm such a, like, words mean so much, and the way we put them together means so much. And I've been so hurt by words, you know?
Yeah, I mean, looking back I remember hearing that too when I was in elementary school. I think first or second grade. I remember we would like all say it together. I think maybe kindergarten actually. Like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think it was, again, I can see why you would say it's a load of, crap. But the thing is that I think we were, at least this is my perspective on what we're being told this. It was a way for us to recognize that this is what, at least what I learned from it. That's why I don't care if someone can call me the worst thing. They can make some horrible, even racist remarks, and I'll be like, that just shows how uninformed and
it's a reflection
stupid.
Of them. It's a reflection of them.
You. It's like, okay, like, doesn't hurt. That's the way I've learned that as a kid growing up.
I feel like it just prepares us for the fact that people either say rude things or say things they don't mean. Yeah. But I don't think that's an excuse for you not to be able to be hurt from them either. Because I think, like,
it's like a way to, it's like a shield,
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to let these words hurt me. But in reality, like, people do deal with this stuff. Like, you have the ability to, like, this is just going to, like, go right off me. Like, you're covered in oil. Me, like, I feel like it's like a little paper, like, airplane, and it's just getting stabbed in my heart. Like, just heart, like, all the mean things, like, I take them to heart because I can't understand or conceptualize why people would say that. And it's different when it's a stranger on the street, I might not be as,
or on the internet.
Like, yeah, or like on the internet or like on the street. Like, I worked in retail. I've been called a bitch. I've been called all the things in the world, and that didn't hurt me as much because I'm like, you know what, this person doesn't know me, they're angry for whatever reason, I'm trying to help them, whatever. But when it's people that that's when it starts to hurt. That's when you can't conceptualize why someone you care about would say these things about you. And like, so that's where it gets all mixed up, and where it's like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words don't hurt me. It's like, well, words do when they come from a certain person. Like, I'm sure, like, for instance, if I said certain things to you, they would hurt you a little bit more than if other people.
Oh no, that's the thing, is that's why I can agree with you on that and say that, if it's coming from, especially if it's coming from someone who you trust, and they're saying things that you're like, well, you've never said this to me. Why are you telling me this for the first time? It's obviously it's going to come out hurtful no matter what they say, and that's why I can agree with you on that. Like, if it's coming from a person who you trust. And then it's like, damn, I never heard you say these things to me before. Like, where's this coming from? Yeah. And that's when it can be hurtful. They're like, dang, like, I didn't know you felt that way. Wow. Yeah. So it and then you're taking it in like, damn, that actually hurt me. Makes you realize, like, wow.
I think too, like, with me, the things that hurt me most, and I actually was talking to Douglas about this, and I talked to my mom about this too, was when people question my character, and when people say things that make it seem like they don't know the character and the kindness in my heart. One of the most hurtful things that has been said to me, and for some people this might seem like a very small thing, but one of the most hurtful things that have ever been said to me was that I have growth issues. And it came from a lack of understanding of who I am and, like, what I'm doing, and that growth isn't always visible to people who aren't, like, paying attention, or who don't, like, you don't know what I'm doing on the, you don't know what kind of work I'm doing on myself. And it came from a lot of, like, judgment. And I think about that a lot because I feel like I'm always doing things to improve myself. Yeah. I am someone that's so focused on becoming the best version of myself and becoming the person that I truly want to be. And for someone to say that when I was actually going through the process of trying to get to where I want to be, it was so, like, I don't know if the word's degrading, but it felt, I was so hurt by it. Like,
and I can see that,
And it was just it was so hard because I'm like, who are you to tell me, like, I have growth issues? Especially because it came from a lack of understanding, but also, like, not of an understanding of where I've been. It's taken a lot for me to get to where I am today. There have been a lot of, like, trials and tribulations. There's been a lot of things that people don't see because I don't post when things are going crappy. Like, I don't post these, like, not so pretty parts of my life. And I mean, there's, like, just to get to where I am, like, I'm forever proud of myself for being here and being alive and keeping myself alive, Yeah. Because there were times I didn't want to be, and there were times that I was struggling and I never thought I would get out of the darkness. And I did, and when people can't see that, and when people can't see that I've worked so hard to be here, it really upsets me, and I can't change people's perspective, and I realize it's no longer my job to. I was literally just, and I'm going to play the audio from TikTok. I was literally just before we started recording, watching TikToks as you do on a Sunday morning, and I heard something that was directly relevant to what we were going to be recording today, so I saved it. But it's from Daniel Sloth. I guess he was doing a live show, and the whole point of the TikTok is like, name something that stuck with you forever from like an unexpected place. So this is what it says.
What's your favorite surprisingly deep quote from an unlikely source?
If you do not love 100% of who I am, you do not love me. You love an idea of me which you have falsely fabricated in your head, and it is not my fault if I do not live up to those expectations.
What's your favorite?
I literally, my mind was blown when I heard that. Like, I'm sorry for my language, but like it was blown, because that is exactly how I've felt and haven't been able to like regurgitate out, is that like, if you do not love all of me, my flaws, the good parts, the bad parts, you don't love me. Like, to love someone means to love fully. Like, I love you, and I love everything about you, whether it's good, bad. Like, we all have our faults, and if I were to say, like, well, I love you, but not this part of you, this isn't who I love, then like, that's crappy. Like, that's really, and I feel like it comes to like, it kind of sounds like conditional love. Like, love shouldn't be conditional, especially when it's with, it should be unconditional. No matter what you do, I'm going to love you. Especially when it's like in like a relationship like ours, or like a family relationship. And I think that's true too, is where he was like, you've created this falsely fabricated version that you like of me, and if I don't live up to those expectations, that's not my fault that you have this version in your head that you like more. And I feel like that's what's happened in my life, is that there's a version out there that people like of me. There's this version that they once liked, but because I'm a forever changing and evolving person, I'm now Sonny version 3, like loving, like evolution style, like Pikachu, like that kind of thing. Like, people don't love that version of me, and I'm like, I don't want you to, if you can't love me where I'm at, then don't love me at all. Don't say you love me. Don't say you care, because you don't. And that's a hard part of healing too, is like kind of uncovering what we deserved. And we might have touched on this in a couple other podcasts, because a lot of these topics are interrelated, but we deserve love. And I think for a long time I thought that I didn't. Like, if I thought a lot of the way that people acted made me feel like I don't deserve anyone to love me, and I couldn't love myself. But we all deserve love, and we deserve respect, and we deserve, to feel joy and to feel happiness. And there are people in your life that aren't giving that to you. It is not your job to keep them happy. It is your job to keep you happy, And I feel like, again, it goes back to like, sometimes we need to allow ourselves to be selfish, and maybe not like selfish in the way where we just completely disregard other people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we deserve to be selfish when it comes to doing what's best for us, and not caring if what's best for us is good for someone else.
Damn. I mean, that's.
I was like, you're gonna say anything?
No, it's just like I was just because you went really deep on that piece of that TikTok. So like what you iterated was perfect, I think, in regards to that. So I don't know. I can't follow up with anything on that. No. I might have some remarks, but I might have some remarks on like, I mean, there's things that I know there's things that I don't like about myself, and like I wouldn't want someone to, like that part of myself either. So like, it's a good way to realize like, change. And I think that's a way you can change yourself. You can change your attitude if you need to change it. Things like that. Yeah. That like, I think we can recognize that doesn't mean that someone's not going to love 100% of you. It's just more of like, you're always I think as human beings, we're always looking out for the best in people that we trust, We're always trying to like upgrade people. not to say upgrade, like you're going to go and upgrade them, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to help them upgrade themselves, you know, to evolve and hopefully for the best, not for the worst, because there's people that do stuff for like malintentions and stuff like
I
that.
think though too is that what I get from that too, that little snippet, is that, you know, we should, so often we pick people apart, like, and like sometimes we do it like subconsciously, we don't know that we're doing it, but like I should look at you as a whole person, not, oh well, there's this part of him and there's this part of him, don't really like that, I'm gonna try to ignore that. Like, we shouldn't pick people apart, we should just look at them as the whole version. You know, it's not our job. I feel like that comes to judgment. Like, we shouldn't judge people and we shouldn't be looking for things that are wrong with them. Obviously, everyone has flaws, but we shouldn't be actively looking for them, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I hope people don't do that. Like, I don't go actively just walking down the street and I just start like analyzing them like a computer and like, you know, breaking down their flaws. Like, I hope people don't do that, but maybe there are people that do that and that's not good. Yeah, we shouldn't just be actively judging one another. I think that's not right. I do, however, think that if it's someone that is in your life, it wouldn't be coming from a judgmental standpoint. It would be coming from like, I'm hoping that like you understand, like the same way that you feel like the things that you feel that have caused you pain, you're letting people know that. And what you're saying isn't being judgmental. You're just saying like, this is how you feel about the situation that happened. That's what I'm trying to come across. That's what I'm trying to say. So like, if there is something that I ever said, or I think that you're doing that's hurting me, I would let you know. And for some, it might come from a judge. Like, are you judging me on these things? It's like, no, I'm just letting you know, like, this is hurting me. And it's different. Like, people feel with different things. So yeah.
Yeah, I think too. I referenced like this conversation I had with my mom, but it was a really good conversation. And it definitely made sense because I am my mom's daughter, and my mom and I are a lot alike. And one of the things is my mom is a very emotional person, or we've been labeled as very emotional people, and that's been me my entire life. People have said, Sonny's so emotional, I have all of these feelings, and it was kind of like a flaw that people saw in me, right? That I have all these emotions and I feel so much. But what everyone failed to realize was that emotion was passion. When I get emotional about something, it's because I'm passionate about something. And it's not negative. I feel things so deeply because I'm so passionate about things in my life. I care so much about things in my life. And, you know, people should be concerned if I didn't feel this way. If there was a total, like, if I was just numb, you know, if I just didn't care at all. But that's the exact opposite. Is I care so much. So often, like, these emotions flood out of me, like, in many different ways. I had a conversation with like my coworkers one time, is that no matter what emotion I'm feeling, I'm probably gonna cry, just because like that's where my brain sends signals to my eyes to start producing tears, whether I'm really happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm angry. That was the worst thing, was like when I'm angry, I often get like very teary-eyed. I'm like, no one's gonna take me seriously if I'm so angry, but I'm also crying. And so like but I just feel things so so much, and like a lot of it just comes from the passion that I have. Like, I'm passionate about the work I do. I'm pretty passionate in most areas of my life, and I saw that as as a flaw for a long time, but it's not. Like, it's made me who I am. It's gotten me to where I am. And you know, this has kind of gone a little past healing, but yeah, I just think that, you know, the healing process it's never gonna be easy, like I said, but it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I've come to realize I don't have all the answers when it comes to healing. I'm trying to figure out what's going to heal me and heal my heart and help me move forward. And like, what I know might not help someone else, or what I do might not help someone else. But I do hope that like this conversation has helped someone, because I know it can feel so lonely when you're trying to heal your heart, when you're trying to just feel better. like to feel happy, to feel joy. And I know that's something that I've just wanted to feel for so long, was just to feel how I once felt, and so happy and so like the world is mine. And I just hope that for anyone like struggling, that they know it won't be like that forever. But it also it's work, and it's okay to, it's not like a competition, you know, how quickly can you heal? You know, it might take months, might take years. It depends the situation, and that's okay. It's okay if you aren't fully healed. It's okay if you're still looking to figure out what's going to work for you. Ultimately, you just got to continue to make decisions that are going to benefit you and your being, and where you want to go. And I know it can be hard to not take others' opinions into consideration and not to seek that external validation. I think that's been my main problem, is my need for external validation and gold stars and just knowing that I'm doing the right thing. But I mean, I'm fairly young, so, you know, I've got the world, I've got still so much time. But that's something that I feel like I'll continue to struggle with, is that while I know that I only need to please myself, my need to please other people is so large. I just want to make other people happy too. But yeah, do you have anything? Oh, actually, before we end this, there's something that also came up when I was like, you know, thinking about what I was going to talk about on today's podcast and how we were going to frame it and all that kind of stuff. I used to watch a show, Teen Wolf. Are you familiar with it?
I do remember hearing about it. I never saw it. I might have seen like a snippet off or something like that. But it was
so good.
Really
oh, I love that show. Maybe that's the show that we're watching. It was on CW. But there's an episode where there's this character named Styles, and I'm not gonna lie, and Cesar knows this. When I'm really sad, I listen to a lot of sad music, but also like sad videos of like how do you say that word? Compilations, yeah. Of sad scenes from like shows or movies, because I feel like it's best to let the tears come out. So there's a scene that I used to always reference back to because it's often how I felt in my life. And like Styles is sitting with like this therapist, and she's like, "How are you?" And he was like, "I'm fine." And then he's like, you know, aside from the jumpiness, the not sleeping, the constant overwhelming, crushing fear that something terrible is about to happen. And that like term is called like hypervigilance, and it's often associated with anxiety as well. And I think that's something that I've always felt too, and like what's kind of like deterred my healing a little bit is that I'm always worried and overwhelmed that something bad is going to happen, no matter, so that because I feel that way, I need to prepare for something awful happening. And yeah, it's kind of hard when you're always worried that something bad is going to happen, and like you can't really like reason with your mind in that moment. I was like, I just feel like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, have you ever felt like that?
Yeah, I mean, hypervigilance, I think you can use that as a superpower, I think, in my opinion. Because, I mean, no, really.
Just like, superpower, hypervigilant.
No, I think, I mean, there's this book, I need to pick it up. I just remember reading like a few chapters of it, talking about books. I can't remember what doctor it was. She's like a PhD psychologist or something like that. But she wrote a book called like How You Can Use Your Anxiety as a Superpower. and
I need that book.
I mean, like, I need to read it because, like, I mean, there's a lot. I think having a hypervigilance is one that is a key aspect of how you can not predict things, but you can use that towards like, towards like analyzing, like maybe it's what you do at work, or maybe it's like the world or whatnot. And again, I'm not a doctor, but in this case, like, yeah, I can see why it would be like being hypervigilant about, you know, if this is probably what's going to happen, and always worrying about what's going to happen next may never happen at all, can be like a side of it, can be a bad thing, you know, because then you're always worrying about things that might not happen, and there's things that you might have worried about that actually did happen, and then you're like,
yeah, and then that confirms
yeah.
your reason to worry about future things. It's like once you're right about one thing, your mind just goes like, well, I'm going to be right about all these things, so I need to be prepared. That's something I've struggled with. It's like, once I've been proven, like, if it could be 1 out of 10 scenarios I predicted. If one of them comes true, I'm automatically like, shit, like I've got to prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
And like that can be like toxic for yourself, because like obviously like there's a healthy level of like worrying, right? You know, it's okay to be worried about certain things. Like some of it's like logical and reasonable. But I've actually realized too, a little bit off topic, like as I've got older, I've begun to worry about a lot of things that are not as like logical to worry about. I mean, some of them are, but like, for instance, I used to be fine like driving myself around and like not really scared of like getting to accidents. But after getting to an accident, and it wasn't even like the worst accident it could be, like I'm now like terrified. I mean, and you know, I have really bad car anxiety, and that was something I never experienced. I used to get in the cars with like, you know, anyone. I can't even take an Uber. Like I either have to physically drive or Cesar has to drive, and even then sometimes I get anxious, and my friends kind of get a little annoyed with me because I can become a little bit of a backseat driver just because I'm so worried about like accidents. But even now, like I worry when you leave the house. I'm like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't get to an accident. Like it's things like, obviously it's okay to worry about them, but sometimes I feel like I'm worrying so much. I'm like, Sonny, like everything's going to be okay. But I feel like if I don't worry, I won't be prepared for the emotions that I'll feel if it does happen, you know?
Yeah, that's
which it doesn't make sense, but it's crazy.
I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say what you're feeling doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense in your mind. And how
it doesn't even make perfect sense in my mind, but
because like look, when, for example, I'll use just I don't want to get too long on this tangent, but for example, when we're driving and you're again overanalyzing, was that the word that you hypervigilant. This is where I think your hypervigilance could be if you wanted to be in the profession of being like a race car driver, like you could anticipate people's moves that are gonna like whether you're driving like, you know, 140 miles an hour on a track and you're like, all right, that car is going to get me. Like you can literally play this. You can use this as a superpower in your head if you can control the fear, and you can like anticipate what he's going to do. So you can cut him off and then you can like win the race. So like there's those types of, and that's just race car driving. And then there's the aspect of like other sports, you know, like whether it's running or whatever, just like the case
predicting
is.
What people are. I think too, though, like when me and Cesar are in the car, I'm always like, that person's gonna cut into your lane without using their blinker, so be prepared.
Yeah, no, and there's
because
and there's
like people are like
dumb.
Yeah, like you can just tell, but
you can see things.
Sometimes it's not like the best to be. To there's healthy ways to like, you know, feel those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when it comes to healing, it's a long and lengthy process, and it coincides with growth. You know, and I think in order to grow, we need to start to heal things like our inner demons. I know, you know, heal the things that hurt us, and sometimes it begins with recognizing what has hurt us. A lot of times we don't even recognize like where the pain is coming from. So it comes with recognizing what's hurt us, healing what's hurt us, and like, you know, focusing selfishly on you. But do you have any last thoughts on healing and all of that?
I mean, I'll revert back to what I said in the beginning. You know, like in order, at least what I think, in order to heal, you gotta look for things that will help you heal. Whether it's a physician or whether it's something you do physically. A lot of people say that there's a lot of studies that say that like working out or exercising is like a good way to heal the mind and your body. So yeah, I mean, that's something that I would say. Yeah. So I feel like this has been a really good conversation. Cesar and I have a lot of conversation like off camera too, like about this stuff. I feel like these are things Cesar and I are actively talking about in our lives and working on in our lives. So I feel like it's cool to be able to have this conversation on a podcast, because we're not like just be like, oh, we're not speaking our past experience a lot of time. We're speaking on like what we're currently going through, which I think is valuable too. And yeah, we're so happy if you've made it to the end of the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We just want to grow the channel out. We're actually trying to get a little bit more creative with how we add it too, and add some like, you know, graphics and stuff where we can. So it can be a more also visual experience for those who want to watch on YouTube versus listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And yeah, if you have any
comments. You can also leave them on YouTube about like what you want us to talk about on a future podcast, anything you thought about this podcast, your experience with healing, what's helped you, any helpful resources. We're so open to those. I would love to have them. And yeah, thank you so much for listening or for watching on YouTube. We're just happy to be here and happy to do this. So that has been today's episode of the Growing Together podcast with me, Sonny Vasquez.
And me, Cesar Santos.
We are so happy to have you here, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys later.